Can we all just agree that Drake is actually a friggin' genius? So, he just recently released his 9th, 10th, and 11th studio albums. He released Iceman, which was the title we all thought we were just getting. And then he dropped 2 other albums with that. He dropped MAID of HONOUR as well as Habibti. In dropping these 3 albums, he gave us like 42 or 43 tracks to have to listen through. Now, this is not a review of those albums. If you want to know my opinions on those albums in short, I think Iceman is fantastic. I think him going after people that dissed him 2 years ago. I will listen to beef records all day. I don't care if every single song is him talking about beef. He does it well. He has double entendres and triple entendres. I can listen to that nonstop. I think Habibti is the slower of the 3 albums. It's very much R&B tinged. It's not as annoying as previous R&B Drake albums that I've heard. It's still hella slow, but it's only like 11 songs, and some of them actually were decent enough jams, but like, it's whatever. And then the last one, MAID of HONOUR, it's definitely dance clubby. I thought I'd like it a lot more, but there's so many tracks in there that are just about women shaking butt in the club to some beats that range from like pretty decent to like, it's whatever, to where it wasn't as stellar as I wanted it to be. That's my opinion of those 3 albums overall, right? But I want to talk about a common complaint that Drake has been getting as of late, which is that all of his songs and albums are starting to sound the same. He's had for years the same producers, like he's had 40 helping him out and some other people. And so as a result, a lot of his beats sound very similar in style, can be very dreary at times, have that same like bing, bing, bing sound throughout the course of them. Drake is also continuing to talk about the same subjects, women that are doing him wrong, women that he meets in the strip club that he wants to try to give a better lifestyle, traveling, fashion, clothes, all that other stuff. And so critics have been coming out saying, why doesn't he change up his style? He needs to do something different. This is just the same old stuff he's been talking about forever and a day. To be fair, I used to also be annoyed by this stuff too. And then, in listening to Iceman and some of the newer stuff, I start to realize something. Drake is actually a genius. I think he's actually discovered the formula to being a long-lasting pop star. Like, he's been around now for 16, 17 years, and he continues to be at the top of the game. Most of his albums, even the most recent ones, are still selling between going platinum and double platinum, which for an artist this long in the game is really hard. Like, even Eminem is like barely going platinum these days, and Drake is still hitting like 1.3 million albums to 2 million albums for each album that he releases. And so I started thinking about, how is it that this man who was rehashing old topics and talking about the same stuff and using the same style of beats over and over again, being able to keep the public's interest every single time? And that's when I realized the genius of what Drake does, okay? So let's think about this. Think about how people talk about artists. So when an artist first comes out, they're the new thing on the scene and people are listening to their stuff. Maybe they're not totally a fan yet, but like, you know, they start to listen to their stuff and consume things, and they hear a song or two that they like. They might check out an EP or check out an album and like a couple of songs on there. And then that second album comes out, and assuming that they did a decent enough job on their first album, the second album comes out and it's either make it or break it. Either it's their sophomore slump or the opposite happens and they blow the freak up. You know, Eminem's first album, Slim Shady LP, fantastic, amazing. Marshall Mathers LP, 10 million plus. And then the one after that sold 10 million plus, and so forth and so on, right? So Drake's first album was Thank Me Later, and it was a good enough project, came out, people liked it, they responded to it pretty well. But his second album, Take Care, has now reached over 10 million copies sold worldwide, probably more than that. And so what do people do? They like, oh my God, this Drake album's got all these back-to-back bangers, and this is so great, and what this is that. This is the part where most artists start to fumble. At least it could come off as a fumble if they don't do it right? Is that around, after like the 3rd, maybe 4th album, the artist is taking a little bit of a hit, and so what do? They start trying to experiment. They start trying to change up their style. They might get with a different artist and try to work with them. They might get different producers, different beat makers, and all this other stuff, right? And you would think that would be a good thing. Like Michael Jackson did that quite often, and he was still able to sell 15 to 20 million albums worldwide. But unfortunately, most of the time what happens is the public at large hears this new style and think, what? Oh, he's trying to do this style here. Oh, he's trying to do this. Or the new stuff's okay, but it's not quite like their old stuff. Like their old stuff was so much better because they were new and they were fresh and were coming this and that. But what happens is, over time, people start to expect their artists to stay in a certain pocket, you know? However they rapped when they were younger, they're getting older, and now they want to keep hearing their artists rap about that same stuff, right? At the same time, you have people that also start to age out of that artist's music. So you figure like somebody that listened to, say, like T.I., for example, in the mid 2000s, well, they might have been in college at that time. They go out, they get a job, they have kids, they don't have time to listen to T.I., and then they come back to T.I.'s new stuff, and they're like, it's not quite hitting the same way. And at that point, T.I. has also moved on to try new things and new experiments and new whatever, and people just aren't clicking with it. Artists get into this weird thing where on one hand, they want to try to expand out and reach new people, and it feels like the public at large is saying, hey, try new stuff, but then when they try the new stuff, people aren't buying it. And then you have people saying, I wish the artists would rap the way that they used to. And then when they do, it's like, oh, they're trying to be like their old self, but it's not quite hitting the same way. Drake has managed to mesh together these formulas very, very well. So for one thing, he does experiment. Like he put out the Honestly Nevermind album. He's put out a couple of other things that were kind of like more experimental sounding, and those didn't really resonate much with the public. But for the most part, Drake has actually done a good job of sounding like his old self on every single album. He works with the same producers he's been working at since 2009, so that's why most of the beats tend to have this same similar sound from album to album. Like I could play Certified Lover Boy and I could play Iceman, and if you just go off the beats, not even the words, just the beats, you could think they were on the same album because they sound pretty much the exact same. In terms of the stuff he talks about, he sticks to similar subject matter, whether it's like beefing with people, whether it's talking about, again, cars and women and traveling and, oh, woe is me, I can't find the right girl or whatever, right? Why does this work? Because here's the thing, Drake has managed to find the secret to being multi-generational, right? So let's say he's rapping about a particular topic like women in flying planes. You listened to him rap about women in flying planes back in 2013. And now it's 2026, he's still rapping about women in flying planes. And you're like, I've heard them say that too so many freaking times. But you've also aged. So from 2013 to 2026, that's 13 years. You've aged 13 years. Your older self now might not want to hear about Drake rapping about women in flying planes. You know who does want to hear about that? That new 20-year-old who has not yet heard his version of Drake rapping about women in planes. And so Drake has figured out a way to keep his fame going because as long as he just keeps rapping up the same stuff, even though it's old to us who've been listening to him since 2009, it is not old to newer people that are in their teens and their early 20s that are just starting to get into what music they like. And to be fair to Drake, he's been able to switch up his pattern over the years. Like the way Drake rapped when he first came out is different than how he raps now, even though the subject matter is the same. But it's good because Drake's been able to keep up with the stylistic changes of rap with regards to how he actually delivers his delivery. So Drake trying to rap style-wise like he did back in 2009 would not be appealing to today's generation who they have a whole new rap flow pattern. But because he's been able to switch it up enough, he's been able to change in that way while still keeping everything else the same. So a new 18-year-old person listening to Drake today and not going back to listen to his old catalog, listening to like Iceman, listening to Habibti, listening to MAID of HONOUR today, getting into it for the first time, they can hear Drake and be like, oh, his style sounds similar to what's around today, even though his subject matter may be the same, but they're not gonna know it was necessarily the same because they're just getting into Drake for the first time. And so that's how, as his old fans age out, newer fans are able to come in and all the stuff he's rapping about that is old to us is new to them. That is the genius of Drake. He stays multi-generational by staying on the same topics and having the same people produce his stuff while being stylistically slightly different enough for new people to come in and be like, oh, I like this version of Drake, and not have to hear the old version of Drake while we're sitting here thinking, but this is the same stuff. But the new people don't know that. So the new people coming in are gonna always think that that is the best version of Drake, even though it's been the same stuff all the time. It is absolutely, completely genius, and that's why he is still at the top of the game, even though he's releasing project after project that sounds similar to old projects for us older people, but not so much for the newer people. But anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts about this because I just figured this out in my head like, oh my God, this is how he's so relevant still and people are still excited about this stuff, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and I'll catch you guys on the next video. I'm out. Peace.